So you're at the end of your car lease and you got to make a choice. Am I going to keep making payments on the car? Am I going to purchase it? Or am I going to turn it back into the dealership? But what you don't know and what they're not going to tell you is there might be a serious impact to your credit report and credit score if you don't do it right. We are yourfaircreditlawyer.com. I'm Hugo Blankingship, and this is my partner, Tom Christiano. Our job is to help consumers like you solve credit reporting problems. And one of the problems that we've seen a number of times is what happens at the end of a consumer car lease. Tom, what do you think about that?
Well, a lot of times the credit report is inaccurate when a consumer tries to either extend their lease and or purchase the vehicle from the dealer. What we see is there's different transactions and different payments, and these different payments and transactions are hard to account for from a credit reporting standpoint. Many cases can involve the end of a lease, and I think that's a very risky time for most consumers, Hugo.
It is. Some people get to the end of the lease and they're just like, I don't want to be bothered with this. I want to just keep making payments a lot easier. But there's a couple of things that they don't realize. Number one, you can't keep doing it. Under the Consumer Leasing Act, the most that they can allow you to continue to make payments on an existing lease is 5 months. If it goes to 6 months, then they're required to give you all new disclosures, and they're not going to do that. So at most you have 5 months, but it also creates another problem. As you continue to make these payments, it's going to become a lot more difficult to determine what the cost is going to be to purchase the car at the end of the lease. But we've had a bunch of consumers with these problems, right?
We have, and unfortunately, the end of a lease is a time when they're talking to the selling dealer. They're trying to figure out what the charges are, what payments are required, because you have to pay your remaining lease payments if you're going to purchase the car, and then you have fees to purchase, and it's very complicated math that involves purchasing a car at the end of a lease. So what happens is the numbers don't start matching up with what's owed and what people say you owe, and then consumers will start challenging and saying, hey, this seems too high. Why am I paying so much to purchase a car that I've leased for 3 years? And the devil's in the details, so to speak. So when they go to consumer reporting of these information, it's not matching up, and it's inaccurate portrayals of how you've handled the lease. The data that the consumer reporting agency has is going to initially be that data related to the length, the months of the lease, and what the monthly payment is. And then the risk is when payments start coming in at the end of the lease that don't match or flow with that data, all the data itself becomes corrupted at the end, right, Hugo?
It does, and then the reporting of it can get out of hand really quickly. Like we've had a client who decided that he wasn't ready to turn in the lease, and he wasn't ready to do anything, and he just kept making the payments, which seemed to be fine. But after the third month, they decided to repossess the car. They didn't even tell him. They went to his house and they grabbed the car. And then what they did was they reported that the car had been repossessed from him, which wasn't true. And then they reported that he owed a collection account for the entire balance of the car. So they had both the car and they claimed that he owed some $35,000. Things can get out of hand very quickly in these car leases.
And think about that. You've made every lease payment on time. You have perfect credit other than the inaccurate reporting is related to the lease. And now the person is saying that you owe $30,000 for the car and they have the car and your credit is ruined. It's a tragic scenario for consumers that are coming at the end of their lease. And it's a scenario that we have been very experienced in helping people navigate.
The first thing you want to do is you want to avoid the problems up front. And the problems up front usually start with trying to figure out what the cost is. If you're going to keep the car, okay, you got to determine what the cost is. Now, the best way to do that is to go directly to the dealership, where you bought the car or leased the car originally. Ask them to call the lessor and find out exactly what it's going to cost. The problems that we've seen with a lot of clients is that number comes out and then it changes, that whoever gave it to them didn't give them the right number. And there might be things in there that they haven't added in, like there might be taxes that haven't been paid, or there might be tolls that haven't been paid, or there might be parking tickets that haven't been paid. And then they say, oh, well, we're going to need some more money from you. And that's when the games begin.
Right. You have mileage problems, damage to the vehicle problems, tickets and taxes that want to be added on at the end of the lease. And the consumer's head is spinning because they're trying to purchase the car or turn it in, and all these extra fees are being added. And the next thing you know, there's charge-offs for fees that you don't even think are owed. So your, again, perfect credit report has charges for things you didn't even think you owed on there, and you have to prove your innocence, and you got to talk to the lessor to see, hey, why am I being charged for these things? Why do you say I owe this money? And frankly, Many of these bigger banks, you're dealing with automated processes. It can be very difficult to get a straight answer. I know one of our clients called numerous times, and the phone would get disconnected or whatever. And just trying to get an accurate number to pay can be nearly impossible. And then when they're trying to credit report the situation, they can't even credit report an accurate number. And the only real thing a consumer can do under that is try to pay as quickly as possible what is alleged owed, and then dispute any inaccurate credit reporting that follows. Right, Hugo?
That's always a good advice, because the problems that we get into, and even with a client that is proactive, right? And they say, okay, my lease is going to be coming up in 3 or 4 months, and I want to take care of it now, and I want to get a number and get it paid off. And then in this particular case, the client got the number, went to the bank, got a loan, paid the lessor, and then the lessor said, oh, well, you didn't give me the right amount of money because we want some money for taxes that she was going to have to pay herself. And what did they do? They charged it off. They had the money. She had paid $12,000 to purchase the car at the end of the lease. And right after she paid the $12,000, they reported it to the credit bureaus as a charge off. Can you believe that?
Oh, I can believe it, because I remember reading the credit report, and it really was, anyone should be able to figure it out, because on some level, it's a math problem. If you start with a 42-month lease and your payment is $300 a month, then it's going to be some $12,000 total lease payments. And to have a charge off that reports even greater than what you owed to begin with, it just defies common sense. And consumers dispute this information at the end of the lease and these improper charges. And it's like they're banging their heads against the wall trying to get someone to listen to them and say, how could I possibly have paid you more money than I owe? And you're still saying that I'm a delinquent and a deadbeat.
That's one of the biggest problems that we've seen in any of these auto lease problems at the end of the term. Whoever is reporting it is not going to fix it. Nobody wants to go back and look at it and sort through the information. They just say, that's what I'm reporting. That's what I'm verifying. And it just goes on and on and on. The only way that you're going to be able to get this cleared up and corrected is probably hiring a lawyer that knows what they're doing.
Right. And well, like you said, Hugo, there's no incentive for anyone to solve your problem. The bank with the lease, they say, oh, well, you owe this money. What do you want me to do? And the credit reporting company is going to say, oh, it's on your credit report. The bank told me you owe the money. What do you want me to do? And you can send them letters and supporting documents and say, look, I paid all the money they said I was supposed to pay well before any dates. I even paid more money than I owed. You need to fix my credit report. And they will not fix your credit report, because the system is not designed to help the consumer. The system is designed to reward the bank and to keep things on credit reports and to operate as quickly as cheaply possible for the consumer reporting agency.
And the damage that they do is catastrophic. They're going to report, and they often do report as a collection or charge off. That's the worst thing that they can put on your credit report. You might have a credit score in the 800s, and it's going to drop to the mid 600s or 650, 680. All of a sudden, just one credit report error, and your credit is tanked. You got to get it back, and you're going to need some help.
Yes, and really keeping good records is key. Keep records of communications with the bank. Keep records of any communication with the dealership and how they tried to help you with the problem. And these are documents that you can provide and include with dispute letters, so you can prove. You have to prove your innocence, and you can prove your innocence by having this documentation.
I think the best advice that we can give anybody is to avoid these problems up front. So here's the procedure. Number 1, start early, 3 months, 2 months, at least 2 months before the end of your lease. Don't go over term. Don't keep making payments on the lease. That always causes problems. Avoid that. Go back to the dealership leased you the car originally. Ask them to get you a number. Ask them if they can help you finance it. If you can do the financing through the car dealership, you're probably not going to have a problem. If you go to your own bank and you do it, that's where the problems start. So if you can get the number up front, get it early enough, and get the selling dealer to finance it, you're probably not going to have any problems. But whatever you do, don't go over term and keep making payments.
Right, because it puts the bank in a situation where they want to charge off the loan because they feel it's a non-performing asset. Right, Hugo?
Yes. But look, If it ultimately does happen, then you're going to have to go through the process. And if you see our original video on what to do when you have to dispute with a credit reporting agency, that'll walk you through the steps of what you're going to have to do to start disputing a credit reporting problem with the credit reporting agencies. But ultimately, particularly with one of these that becomes very complicated to deal with, you're probably going to need a lawyer and somebody that is familiar with the Consumer Leasing Act.
Right. And the benefit of having a credit report lawyer is we've seen this before. We've seen the problems with inaccurate repossessions. We've seen problems related to payments at the end of the lease that aren't owed. We've seen problems with the misapplication of payoff payments. So there's virtually any scenario, we've seen it through our experience, and we can navigate that and help you solve your credit report nightmare quicker.
It's maybe not going to be overnight, and you might have to go through a little bit of trouble to get there. But as I said, if you can avoid it up front. And the other piece of advice I'm going to give you is if there's some dispute that you have with them over $50, $100, $200, whatever it is, pay it. Pay it and deal with the problem later, because what you don't want it to do is to morph into a problem with your credit report. If you overpay them, you can get the money back. They'll know it when they have to account it for it at the end of the thing. But whatever you do, don't let your credit be at risk.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. There are other videos on inaccurate credit reporting and family identity theft. In the meantime, take care of your credit and dispute any inaccuracy.
We'll see you next time.